Sports Professor Rick Horrow inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports. You're on the record, a exclusive and pretty darn interesting Super Bowl edition heading to 59 in New Orleans. The teams with the best records by far over the last 3 years, a combined 40-11 and 39-12. The three-peat destined Kansas City Chiefs against the best in the NFC Philadelphia Eagles. But it's more than that. It's a celebration of football. It's a recovery from a terrible tragedy on Sugar Bowl morning in New Orleans and a whole host of other issues for the industry and I dare say the country. What a merger of sports and politics. We're not talking politics today. We're talking about an incredible sportsman who was the first two-term Republican governor of the state of Florida from 1999 to 2007, a friend and associate, Jeb Bush. He was involved in a number of sports ventures in Florida and South Florida. He played tennis at the University of Texas. He also has hosted the AT&T Jeb Bush Florida Golf Classic for cystic fibrosis. He graduated magna cum laude and Phi Beta Kappa from the University of Texas, but he also played tennis there in 1973. Involved in our baseball and other efforts when I was involved in bringing it to South Florida, so knew of him well, clearly. He also owned a piece of the Jacksonville Jaguars in trust over time. Jeb Bush, a statesman, and also he was rumored to be the next commissioner of football, certainly tapped by the NFL to be interviewed when Roger Goodell took over for Paul Tagliabue in 2006. He was a governor, and he stayed that way. Secretary of Commerce in the state. He was involved in a tremendous amount of real estate, and he reduced taxes, some say, the published reports, nearly $1 billion per year in the strongest revenue period of the state of Florida and the highest possible bond rating for the state. Those are objective facts. We're not going to talk politics here. We're going to talk sports. We're going to talk the intersection of politics. The interview was done a year ago, but it's still incredibly important today. Very important perspective, given our current state of politics and sports. I give you Jeb Bush.
Governor?
Rick, it's a joy being with you.
Yeah, look, it's really exciting. I've looked up to you for many years and looked up to you politically, but I've also looked up to you in the sports world as well. And I know that your dad played in the World Series for Yale.
Yeah.
What has sports meant to you as far as a family legacy?
Well, growing up, that's all we did. People always ask us, well, what did you talk about détente, when you were growing up as a kid? And I always said, no, we talked about the Houston Colt 45s. Or my exploits, as a little leaguer, or, we love sports. I grew up in a time where we were told not to come in to the house until it was time to eat, and we just played sports. So my dad was, a huge advocate for us to do that, and my greatest joys were going to baseball games with him.
And you had the ability to get involved in the business as well. We'll talk about that in a second. The family political business, but the family sports business, obviously. Way back before you even thought about it's the Walker Cup
because of my great-grandfather founded it. George H. Walker. My dad's name's George H.W., Herbert Walker Bush. My brother's named George Walker Bush, so there's a Walker connection there. And the whole Walker clan, every 2 years, when they're playing in the United States, will show up wherever it is. It's always in pretty good places, like the National and Seminole.
Well, Seminole last year especially, that was an incredible event with incredible weather.
Yeah.
And Jack Nicklaus holding court, you around, but the business leaders and the political leaders go because they want to see this event as an event as well.
Absolutely. I'm not sure what got into my great-grandfather's head to do this, but it turned out pretty good.
Well, he donated a trophy. I mean, you could donate a trophy to something. you could be right there.
He also was a founder of, I didn't know this till I went to play once at Augusta. He was one of the founding members, which blew me away.
Do the people who govern Augusta, and we all know who they are, understand that stroke? And because obviously Augusta is the land of the understated. You're not supposed to talk about it. Someone else is supposed to find out about it. Did you make sure that someone else found out about it?
No, they already knew it.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't, actually. So it was a nice, pleasant surprise as you're walking up to the third floor of this incredible, building with the most amazing experience as a golfer.
Let's talk about your University of Texas tennis prowess. I hear on good authority that, though I'm not supposed to say, but you're a walk-on, but that speaks to your determination and drive, not necessarily anything else, but that your serve was of some significant repute.
I don't know about that. I was 6'4", so that helped. I was a walk-on. I won the intramural tournament. I show up, and the new coach, Dan Snyder, I think his name was, who became a legendary coach later on at Texas, took a look at me and said, "You're on the team, get a haircut." This was in the early 70s. So
and you said?
I said, "Yes, sir."
Yes, sir. Of course you did.
And I played 1 year, never got higher than 9. And then the next year he recruited the #1 doubles team in the world, to 2 Aussies, Denton and Curran, or maybe a South African and an Aussie, and I decided I wanted to go back to studying.
They were, at least Denton, I guess they were pretty significant on the pro ranks.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
135 mile an hour serves. I decided just to make sure that I didn't get hurt, I bowed out.
And that singularly prepared you for life in business and politics, I suspect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
How to dodge bullets.
Yeah, well, let me just stay on that for a minute. What is success in sports or participation in sports? How did it prepare you for life in a very, very successful life in business and politics?
Totally. It's kind of disturbing to see young people just all crouched up, looking at screens, when just the resiliency, the competitive nature, the sportsmanship, all of that help you be a good leader or a good person. So whether it doesn't even have to be organized sports. In fact, I think it's better to have, not that it should be called disorganized sports, but allow your creativity to come up. When I was growing up, we created an Olympics of things that didn't make the Olympics right now in Tokyo.
The Bush Family Olympics, or was this?
Yeah, no, it was kids in the neighborhood, and we had all sorts of different events that we made up using our imagination. And so that kind of attitude, the skills you learn, the interpersonal skills, all the things that you learn through sports, I think are really important.
If I were to ask you which brother was a better athlete, would you answer that?
I don't know. We're roughly equal. I'll tell you one thing. My oldest brother, much more older brother, former President W, shot his age a month ago.
Why doesn't that become a major story? Because he's understated about that stuff, or he doesn't?
Yeah,
want to
I don't
give
think
too many strokes?
he doesn't toot his own horn, but I mean that was pretty good. He was very happy. I was happy for him.
Well, that's enough. We don't have to talk about it further. That's great, really good. So let's talk about a couple college athletic things first. NIL dominating the headlines. If I were to say 5 years ago that college athletes not only would be paid but flaunted, and Nick Saban would say, "I've got a quarterback that's going to make $1 million," you'd say I'm nuts. But now it is normal. What's your thought on the whole issue?
I think there's going to be some really bad unintended consequences. I think women's sports actually are probably going to be hurt dramatically. And the business model may not be the right one, but it's the one that generates lots of revenue for the universities in the major colleges is basketball, and more importantly football. You take that away, you're not going to be able to support all these other sports that allow a lot of young people, particularly women, to be able to get a scholarship and to learn their trade through sports that helps them the rest of their lives. So somehow there's going to have to be a way out of this to get to recognize that.
And we could say the NCAA abrogated from the time that Emmert had his press release a year and a half ago saying we're going to do it, but the do it was July 1, you guys go ahead and do it. And I guess the issue will be how to govern, and maybe it's the states require or legalize it as long as the athletic department spreads the dollars out. I mean, there are ways to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it could lead to unionization in some fashion. It could get, it's not going to be static, that's for sure. And then you have, of course, my alma mater and Oklahoma jumping ship to the SEC.
We'll talk about that. No, let's talk about that. Come on now, what's your visceral reaction?
I thought they should have done it, to be honest with you, when A&M jumped.
Yeah.
Now my dad's library's at A&M. I've kind of become more of an Aggie fan just because I love the spirit of the place. And I think they've had a good run because they took the leap first.
Right.
We'll see. I mean, it's the haves will be stronger, the have-nots will be weaker. Again, there'll be unintended consequences of allowing this stuff to happen.
Don't you find it ironic that you now have an opportunity to potentially have 12 teams in a college football playoff, but yet we may have 3 or 4 super conferences where the conference champions, there are only 3 or 4 of them?
Yeah, no, I think that's where we're going. And I guess the answer is that everybody should have the right to get beat by Alabama, and Texas will now join that list.
Well, all right, but we've had Nick Saban on our show, and Nick Saban is as humble as someone whose statue is a little higher than Bear Bryant's could possibly be, but we'll leave that for another discussion.
He just got a nice payday.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably fair. So ultimately, where does that all shake out? Conference musical chairs 10 years ago because of TV. Big Southwestern Conference, people don't remember it, right? Now, all right, so where are we going?
I think we see this consolidation playing out to the detriment of the smaller conferences, the smaller schools. Look, the sports in America is unique. There are no, like in Europe, there are no college teams.
Right.
We have a huge advantage, and it's a great tradition for our universities. And if we don't watch out, we could really hurt that.
All right. Now, so obviously, I'm going to ask you for a substance. The days of you giving political answers are over, so you don't even have to worry about that. So, if University of Texas plays national championship, Florida, FSU, or Miami, who are you rooting for?
I would be for the Canes.
You would?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all about the U.
All right, good. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, he lives in the Gable. He lives down here.
So I'll tell you a quick story. My last year, or maybe it's not the last year, but my second term, I'm watching FSU play Miami. I'm in the booth with Brent Musburger at halftime, and he says, "Of course, you're not going to say who you're for, right? Because you're governor." I said, "Oh yeah, I'm for the Canes," and I could hear. There was 80,000 people. Yeah. You could hear all of a sudden, because people were listening on the radio, people starting to boo. Yeah. So I've already taken this step of being politically incorrect.
Yeah, well, you don't need anybody booing you, because that's not really what you've ever been about. But speaking of the Canes, I want to go back. The whole NIL issue relative to what the Canes did with that model, with the gym and the $450,000, and they're spreading those dollars out for $5,000 a player on the team, whether it's the right player or not. It's an interesting concept because it doesn't allow favorites, and that may be the future model as well.
I agree with that. And I think that is a much better approach than taking your star player and allowing them to monetize to a big extent. I think it would create some real morale problems on the team. It's a smart answer. Hopefully this won't be abused. I mean, these are kids that are deserving of getting paid, given their circumstances in many cases, to do it in an equitable fashion, in a way that they can save money as well. They're getting a great education, and if they could save some money to be able to provide for themselves and their families, can't disagree with that.
Isn't it comforting to know that the great education piece is now coupled with, we got to give them some money to live too? That's a great argument to be able to use.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what happens.
Tuition is not cheap at the University of Miami. A little cheaper at Florida and FSU.
Yeah, but they're all great, high-quality schools. Is that good?
Yeah, very good. Right.
So, segue to professional sports. The part owner of the Jaguars during a very interesting and turbulent time. What do you take away from that?
Well, I was part of the chase team. We had a lot of fun making the case that Jacksonville was deserving, and we got it. And then it was like the poodle caught the bus or the aircraft carrier.
Right. Yeah.
And so we ended up getting a great owner. It was a blast. And Jacksonville is a kind of town that embraced the team. It was the only game in town kind of mentality. Didn't have other than the Georgia-Florida game. This was it. And so it's a great city, and it was really a lot of fun. I got elected governor and really felt compelled to sell my interests to avoid any conflicts. And so I missed out on the nice bump, but nice
bump. Yeah, exactly. The nice bump and the good years. But so Trevor Lawrence, does he get you back to the good years?
Yeah, I'm a huge Jacksonville fan because of that experience, and I think he will.
But of course, Jacksonville against the Dolphins, you're a Dolphin.
I am.
Yeah,
You
clearly.
know,
No,
you
not
keep catching me with my
No, but
parochial.
it's obvious. I mean, we know you. We know what the deal is. Let's talk baseball. So the family perspective on the Rangers, you had a good Cliff Notes version of what it's like to own a pro sports franchise from your brother.
Yeah, he was all in. He was the president of the team. He built the team. He built the stadium that, ironically, just got torn down.
The old new stadium.
Yeah.
Right?
And got the benefits of success, and also to this day, people still will come up to him and say, why'd you trade Sammy Sosa or something like that?
Yeah. But
He didn't make the A-Rod decision, though, that was the next owner after him.
Well,
that ended up.
But it's affecting. I'll bet you it's affecting the current guy's balance sheet because it has
Totally.
to when you look at that.
Yeah, that's my favorite baseball contract story is that Bobby Bonilla is still getting paid.
Yeah, for doing
God bless him.
almost as much as he did the last couple of years he was in the game too.
His agent is deserving of a nice commission on
Yeah,
that.
he's getting it every year. So give us kind of the high-minded comparison between the football and the baseball. If you had to invest today, and I know you've had some opportunities in baseball, what's the sport that looks best to you?
I think it's MLS. I think the demographics are younger, more diverse. It's it's earlier in the development of the league. I think that's the place to invest. Football has got a phenomenal franchise, and could have a bigger global reach. Baseball's got issues. The age of the folks going to the games is down. They can't figure out how to speed up the pace of play. We're in this era where people want immediate gratification.
Yeah.
They've got a great technology platform, but I think they're going to have struggles.
Ohtani, Tatis, Alonso, good new faces of baseball.
Totally. And there's always that, but it just seems like if you all of the beauty of baseball to me is what my brother would call strategery. It's all of the subtle parts of it, and we're not living in a culture that rewards subtlety.
Clearly, that's by the way, that's a Chinese fortune cookie thing or a cereal box. That's
Hey,
really
thanks.
good. That's really good. One more curveball on what many people say is a sport, and maybe it'll be in the Olympics. Tell me what you think of esports players making like $2-3 million at 17 years old.
I don't get it, but I've talked to some people that are owners of these teams. I don't quite get it because there's no limit on supply. A game can be created, and you can create new leagues, and it's hard to imagine how. The beauty of sports franchises is that you have a finite number of teams. That in terms of in a demand that grows, so that's where you get the higher valuations. Esports, I don't understand it, but it has a huge global appeal.
Yeah.
Compared to things that are, and we're living in a global world, so I wouldn't bet against it for sure.
So the future Bush family mantra for the great grandkids. Remember when they put the football in Todd Marinovich's left hand? You put the computer little program in the right hand.
I hope
next to the brain.
I hope my grandchildren love the outdoors.
Yeah. Right.
Love to play sports, love to fish, love to hang out. I hope they don't do what I see too many kids doing, just sitting there, having neck injuries because they're just all crouched up looking at a little screen.
Let's shift gears a little bit, but talk about sports, debate, agree to disagree. So the difference, more common interest from my perspective, you're watching a Super Bowl, you can argue about pass interference and holding and all, but at the end of the day, you're supposed to hug it out, you can be civil, you can be intense. Mm-hmm. What does that message tell us about modern day political and business discourse?
I don't know about business, but modern day political discourse is not old school, like what you just described. It's the exact opposite. In politics today, you can win by pushing someone down because without accomplishing anything, but you look good. And looking good is more important than doing things to help people. So, you could have two opponents with dramatically different views, both win in a debate because they're pandering to a base. Whereas, in sports, you have, it may be a little superficial, but there is, the dialogue is more civil for sure. Now, sports radio is starting to reflect our culture as well, and it looks more like politics these days, perhaps. But having wholesome arguments about things, whether they're important or not, is important. And being able to, disagree agreeably is not part of politics today.
When I was admiring your rapidly rising political career, I never thought I would hear the day where you get up in the morning and you listen to 610 Sports Radio for your intellectual satisfaction.
That's what I do. I do. I'm not sure it's for my intellectual satisfaction, but I love sports, and it's a great way to start the day. Joe Rose is, I don't know if the guy's just, he's a workhorse. I don't know how long he's been doing this, and he wakes up really early to do it, so I feel like I have to listen.
Joe, if you're hearing, because I know you well, I set that one up, so you and I will be talking, okay? Maybe if I sent you an invoice, it'll be the first ever payment you've ever made, and you know that. So a couple more things about sports and debate. So we understand from a University of Houston study done by Citi that people are debating, the high school debaters, 160,000 of them around the country, have SATs that are about 70 points higher. Their grade point is about 0.6 higher. And the state of Florida has created this civics and debate initiative to help push the envelope. What do you think of that?
I think it's a great idea, totally. And I love the idea that you're developing to make sports to be not just to have, some discussion about resolve, should North Korea have a nuclear weapon or not. I mean, that stuff's important, and doing the research and all the skills that come from proper debating. But you could also have a similar kind of situation with sports, and I think you would actually get more people to be involved. And that's the key of this, is to have as much participation as you can. I mean, think about this. The Netflix show, I think it was Netflix, the show about the young woman who was a genius at playing chess during the pandemic, created this surge of people playing chess.
Right.
And you could make a pretty compelling case that chess is another intellectually engaging kind of sports that helps you with your studies and helps you, have a broader horizon. So those kind of things matter.
And I will tell you, a month ago, I was at the National Spelling Bee, which was at Disney, and it was a sport. Boy, don't get in the middle of those kids getting prepared for
Well, I love
that.
the winner. The winner is also a great athlete.
She's a great athlete, and she's an incredible person, and ESPN covered it as a sporting event, and we're hoping that we get the same kind of traction with sports.
And she's been offered a full ride to LSU at the age of whatever 12.
Well, we have an NIL issue there, which we can talk about as well.
She could rake it in.
Yeah, pretty easily. So, give me a sense of how important sports is in helping us not only get through the pandemic, but become better citizens, become more resilient, become more able to get along. I mean, is there kind of a high-minded message you can leave us with?
Yeah, look, particularly youth sports, and from that comes all sorts of other things. But the discipline, the resiliency, the toughness, the camaraderie, the sportsmanship, all of that develops a stronger person. And you look at the studies of young people, particularly now, they're less resilient than they should be. We're living in the most amazing time, and yet people are moping around and they can't listen to someone disagree with them. We're in this cancel culture that's really quite dangerous. And I think sports gives you more confidence to be able to accept the fact that not everybody's going to agree with you, and that someone that disagrees with you isn't committing an act of violence on you. I mean, our colleges are rife with this problem, and now it's percolating into the rest of society. And I think getting back to the basics would be hugely important for the next generation.
My friend,
Plus, it's fun.
Well, plus it's fun. That's so we forgot about all that. Thank you very much. Jeb Bush, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot.
Jeb Bush gives us amazing perspective as we head to New Orleans this week and next week for Super Bowl 59. Let's take a look, as we always do, at the opening drive, the top 5 stories heading into the week. Number 1, of course it is, the Super Bowl rematch, the Eagles and the Chiefs, 40-11 against 39-12 over the last 3 years. the 5th Super Bowl in 6 years. The Eagles clearly also up there in the pantheon of excellent teams. Patrick Mahomes, the largest contract in the NFL, 10 years, $450 million. Andy Reid, rumored to be among the highest coaches as well. Travis Kelce, defensive tackle Chris Jones, the highest in their position. The Eagles have done some amazing things under Howie Roseman, enabled them to sign Zach Bond, and also Saquon Barkley, who may be the best player to have influenced a franchise over the last 20 or 30 years. He also hits $1.25 million contract signing bonus because of his NFC title work. He certainly earned that and more. On to New Orleans. Taylor Swift will be there. The ratings for the first Eagle-Chiefs matchup 2 years ago were amazing, probably because of overtime and probably because of the kind of debut as a football fan of Taylor Swift. I bet you it'll be up there or more next year. We'll have to see, but that's number one story quite clearly. Number two, how about an 11-year-old collector turning down the Pittsburgh Pirates' offer to trade the rookie card of Paul Skeens for a whole package, including 30 years' worth of season tickets behind home plate at PNC Field, a softball game that he would play in with the players and fans and others. He said, look, no, I'm going to hold on to it and go to auction. Livy Dunn, also the Skeens' girlfriend and prime influencer, offered the opportunity to take in a game with him. He said, nah, I'd rather go to auction. The Pirates issued a release saying they're bummed, but invited him to a game anyway. And by the way, Skeens, let's not hold a bake sale for him. He's a free agent after 2029. Who knows what his record will be then? That's number two. Number three, USC signs away Chad Bowden as the general manager of their team and program with $1 million salary. You're going to see more of this, by the way, in the future. The GM role of players and coaches, Adrian Wojciechowski, steps down from his role as top NBA insider at ESPN to become the GM at St. Bonaventure. Andrew Luck becomes the GM at Stanford. The bottom line is this. These are folks that will manage the recruiting and NIL process. That process is only going to be bigger and bigger as more money is thrown around. This is effectively the analog to the general manager in the NFL. And Bill Belichick hired his general manager of North Carolina. This will be the first and the second and the third of many. That's number three. Number four, the PWHL. They played 34 games this season, attendance up about 30% compared to last year. Certainly, even though playing less games, the Canadian teams have drawn over 37 more thousand fans than their U.S. counterparts. But the more important issue is the deal in the future. This will be like women's soccer and women's basketball. Sky's the limit as far as franchises. The minimum salary, over $36,000, they want it raised. The model outgrown collective bargaining, they want it raised. Deals with FanDuel, MSG, Nesson, all of those hopefully trumped by the franchises and the league in the near future. We'll have to see, but the metrics are certainly rising. That's number four. Number five, the streaming channels keeping pace with the big boys. $15 billion per year for content for major channels like YouTube, Netflix, Paramount, Fox's Tubi, NBC's Peacock. How about Roku? They generated about a 2% viewing time on Nielsen's Gauge report. They said it's great. Bottom line is there's more and more streaming and content opportunities with the big boys and the medium boys than ever before, and that is clearly one of the top five heading into Super Bowl week. Up next, the next five to watch. Number one, the Tampa Sports Authority is asking for a clarification of their November 24 study with Populous that describes a $137 million renovation between 2028 and 2032 of Raymond James Stadium. The Buccaneers involved in getting that stadium done early, win a Super Bowl years ago. The lease on the facility expires in 2028. Glazer family kind of staying quiet on what they're looking at. The Tampa Sports Authority CEO says, we're going to take a look at what the costs are from our perspective. They said it'll spend about $32.5 million for repairs and renovations for Raymond James using existing tax money, but that may just be the start of negotiations. We'll have to see. The stadium, meanwhile, hosting the NHL Stadium Series in 2026, reportedly in the running for the college football title game in 2029. Clearly, the stadium, very important to Tampa, as well as the baseball issues and others. That's number one. Number two, the LPGA, in a very unique decision, they decide to cancel the tournament that is held at the Palos Verdes Golf Club for March 2023 because the Fur Hills committed title partner and LPGA legend Sari Pak, also named partners in this tournament, haven't been getting the dollars paid by the stakeholder, and the LPGA current commissioner, the interim commissioner, says, we got to move on. Well, clearly, the tournament schedule begins with the LPGA next week at the Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions, Lydia Ko defending her title. It is the first time we've had a financial issue derail a tournament. See what happens with the LPGA down the road on this particular issue. And that's number two. Number three, Fanatics sales hit $8 billion amid pushes into betting and collectibles. It grew 15% their revenue in 2024 to the $8 billion as trading cards showed particular strength in the sector. Merchandise sales, the unit, it totaled $6.2 billion, or basically 77% of the total. $3 billion in equity raised, 10 acquisitions, spending about $1.5 billion, onboarding probably 5,000 employees, they say, on the verge of an IPO. Instead of staying on the course that was driven by trading cards, the aggressive expansion into the trading card area, in addition to sports betting in a short time, NFTs for a shorter time, a one-stop platform for anything sports fans might want to buy, say their founder, the Rubin Group and others. We'll see what happens long term. That's number three. Number four, the Tomorrow Golf League has some data that's become pretty important. Nearly 800,000 fans tune in for week 3. We're nearing the stabilized numbers, so you can see what the numbers really are. But the really important issue is the demographic. 51 years old after 3 matches. When you take a look at Live Golf and PGA Tour, both at 63, very important there. NBA at 50, TGL 51, as we said, NHL at 52, WNBA 61, MLB 60. So the younger the demographics, the better it is for everybody. They're also scoring better with the coveted advertiser demo, adults 18 to 49, in terms of that segment comprising the overall audience on linear TV. TGL at 43%, NBA at 42%, NHL 40%, Formula One 38%, and on and on. So they have a great story to tell, and they'll keep telling it. That's number 4. And number 5, EA Sports FC 25, well, some disappointment as far as their number. The video game company announced its marquee product, the FC 25 EA Sports, failed to deliver expected sales as its preliminary report for the third fiscal quarter. Stock fell 16% last week. The EA total net bookings, the preferred sales metric of the firm, now expected to be between 7 and 7.1 billion instead of 7.5 and 7.8 billion as projected. So they have time to correct it. The bottom line, it is not only shining light for that company, they got some work to do. The top 5 to look forward to, the top 5 as we went forward into Super Bowl week. We'd like to thank Jeb Bush for lending his expertise and amazing perspective as we head into Super Bowl 59. We'd like to thank Khaled Khazar for helping us put the show together. I'd like to thank all of you for listening and watching and joining us as we dissect the $1.3 trillion business of sports. I'm the sports professor, Rick Horrow. Speak with you soon.